Well, this is my updated Marth matchup charts for this year in 2023. I did this way back in the day, and by way back in the day, I mean 2 years ago. I had my matchup charts on each character, and I'm just kind of go rapid fire on like what I think are my personal opinions on each matchup of how I think it's changed to match today's metagame climate. So I'm just gonna kind of go really fast, and then I'm gonna explain each of them in specific details. So that's kind of my rough evaluation of each matchup. I will explain each of these in detail. So this is obviously Sheik, not actually Zelda. Although it might as well be this way when, you know, when it's last stock and you're both at 150 and one Zelda could kill you, then I guess it could be this. Although, if it's in that specific conditions, it's more like 6-4. But, none of these are ordered. I just put them randomly. My rough feelings about Sheik is that the biggest problem Marth has versus Sheik is that Marth needs to make a pretty committal read on his overall punish game against Sheik, because Sheik has so many ways to create 50-50s and like edge guards, juggles, tech chasing. None of that is necessarily really guaranteed for Marth, and if it is, it's really extremely hard that it's probably gonna be dropped in some way, and then you got these nasty reversals she can do. She has one of the best punish games against Marth. In fact, probably the best punish game against Marth. Edge guarding is brutal. Down throw conversions are brutal. Disadvantage states are brutal. But Marth can do a lot of them back. It just requires a few more reads. I do think he has a slight advantage in neutral, although not as much as I once thought. Sheik's crouch cancel stuff, her needle stuff, her overall mix-up game is pretty good. I still think Marth has the edge in the neutral game. It's just, when it comes to Marth capitalizing in neutral, he needs to make a read, and you're going to be wrong at the read sometimes, and yeah, that's what kind of makes this matchup. I don't feel like at the moment Marth wins, but maybe I could be persuaded in the future. I definitely thought that Fox... I thought that Marth had the slight, at least this much advantage back then, but I'm kind of convinced now that, you know, when you play the matchup like Cody Schwab, Mango at his peak, Fox's rush down is really, really good at dealing with Marth. Like, back then, Marth used to win neutral for free by just, you know, down tilt in place, fair in place, you know, pivot grab. And that's because Foxes back then used to respect Marth. But nowadays, the top level Foxes, they don't give Marth any respect, and Marth's not that great at dealing with scrapping. They got better at their overall punish game with, like, you know, up air stuff, juggles, edge guards. Doesn't hit quite as hard as Sheik, and Marth, I think, still overall has, like, you know, unlike against Sheik, Marth doesn't really need to make that much more reads against Fox. Like, you know, Fox has now forced Marth to make a lot of reads, but at the end of the day, it is better than punishing Sheik. The point being is that neutral and punish wasn't as skewed as it once was, which makes me believe that it's now an even matchup-ish. And, like, you know, FD isn't as polarizing to the stage as it once was, now that, like, Foxes has gone a lot better with their neutral game, their juggles, their punishes. So, like, I don't even think that's, like, as much as a favor anymore. That being said, if I have to say which one does better, I just think it's, like, maybe 51-49 Fox favored, or, no, 51-49 Marth favored, as opposed to Fox favored, but it's like so close to even that I think the Foxes has really stepped up their game. And I could see a world where Marth still like slightly beats Fox, but right now I don't see it. As for Falco, I also think the Falcos have really stepped up their game as of late, where like they don't get hit by power shields for free anymore. Getting hit by fair, they don't just stand there anymore. So they definitely created more mix-ups, but at the end of the day, still, like, the whole take laser stuff, the whole power shield stuff is still really good against Falco. It's just now kind of a mix-up. I feel like Marth needs to make less reads against Falco than I need to make reads against Fox. So, it's still, like, a really good matchup. Like, it's still that, like, yes, I need to make more reads now compared to back then, but I still feel like I don't need to make more against than I would against Fox, so Marth still hits Falco really damn hard. And arguably, the reason why I just don't think the Falco matchup isn't nearly as bad as Fox, and by bad I mean like, you know, why I still think Marth beats Falco is that Falco's scrap ability is not nearly as good as it is with Fox. That's one thing I forgot to mention with Fox is that since he's so fast, his shine is good, and his overall frame data is fast, quick hitboxes, scrapping with Marth, Fox is usually gonna have a good time. Falco's shine is a lot smaller. He has a 5 frames jump squat. His moves are generally a little bit more committal, therefore he's not as good in scraps, and he doesn't really have a grab game against Marth still. Overall, I think Marth deals... Like, I do think the Falcos have stepped it up big time, but I still think Marth kind of owns Falco. In a sense that, I think he still has at least a slight advantage. It's not as dominant as I once thought, but he still beats Falco, in my opinion. Ice Climbers I have a hard time evaluating, because if I were to be honest, I don't have a super... I'm not super good at this matchup. There's still so much development ICs can do. However, I don't see this matchup being any worse than even, in the sense that like Marth can split Climbers really well with like late nair, spacing fair, dare, even grab sometimes. So like Marth always has like a really good punish game on Climbers, especially separating Nana and killing... He does sometimes have trouble killing Nana, but overall, he does separate them pretty well. Deals with Sopo pretty dominantly. Sopo is definitely like a 6-4 matchup for Marth, maybe even 65-35. And one fun fact is that Marth, even though Sopo ICs out ground game Marth in the sense that they have higher reach, Marth can actually play inside the wave dash range and have the Icy's Roy zone. And that's, I think, is very underdeveloped and could be further pushed. That being said, it's really hard to deal with Icy's doing Blizzard walling. It's a lot harder than it looks to kill Icy's, and their grab game is still almost as good as wobbling when it's like very optimized. So I don't feel like it's like an auto win for Marth, but I do feel like he's favored overall. Pikachu, I don't think is... I think Marth slightly wins. I somehow beat Axe a couple of times. I have good records against Swift. I play OKP a lot, and I generally beat him. My feelings about this matchup is that if it wasn't for advancement in edge guarding game, this would definitely be like here. But because Marth can at least time a down tilt and forward smash to edgeguard Pikachu, I think it makes it so that Marth wins. If it wasn't for the fact that Marth can edgeguard Pikachu at least 25% of the time, I would think Pikachu wins. But because of the Marth advancement of like, you know, being able to F smash like the double zip of Pikachu's up B, being able to soft read a down tilt and then like dash to center, so then like I don't get ledge dash punished. Obviously Marth walls out Pikachu. That being said, Pikachu probably has like second or third best punish game on Marth. You know, up smash kills at like 80. Or no, up smash, nair, up smash, thunder kills at like 50. And that's pretty bonkers if you ask me. He kind of still lives a long time against Marth, despite the advancements in edge guarding game. But overall, I can't deny that Marth just walls out Pikachu for a long time. And now that I could kill Pikachu from said walling, rather than having Pikachu live to 200% each stock, I do think it's pretty, like, at least slightly Marth favored. As well as, like, low profiling of down tilt, kind of just auto beats Pikachu's nair. Playing around the range is better, crouch canceling a bit better. We've definitely made it harder. Like, it's definitely harder for Pikachu to land a hit on Marth now. But it's not impossible for Pikachu. That's still probably one of his better top tier matchups. Puff, on the other hand, it's weird. It's weird evaluating Puff because there's H-Box, whose fundamentals and instincts are obviously the best we've ever seen, but he's so behind on technology that one has to wonder of what peak Puff will look like. Because I play CPU 0 a lot, where he drill rests me starting at 50. I'm shuddering at the thought of H-Box drill resting me at 50. But he will not do that for the next 5 years. So it's like, I don't know. It's tricky to evaluate this, because on one hand, Marth's scrapping of Puff is usually losing from Marth. But if they don't use all the scrapping tools that Puff theoretically has, then Marth wins the scrapping tools. Plus, like, you know, pivot forward smash being a thing. But if they also have good defense against pivot forward smash, then it's like, by dying down away, then it's like, is it really actually that good? I could see a world where if Puff optimizes literally everything, like, okay, by specifically Puff, I mean Hungry Box, optimizes, like, you know, the technology that Solo Battle and CPU Zero does, I could see a world where it's here. Because, like, Marth isn't killing nearly as often with pivot forward smash, Puff gets a lot more off of her scraps, H-Box having the top tier instincts and camping really well. I could see a world where it could be here, but at the moment, it's more like here, where right now, Zane's just dumpstering on H-Box. Peach, it's tricky. I could see a world where it's here, but what makes me think it's more like here is because Peaches have gotten really good at dealing with Marth's defense. Like, yeah, Marth dominates neutral, but it's kind of like the Pikachu problem, where, like, yeah, I might dominate neutral, but is it really that good if I'm only killing you at 200%, you know? We need to make guesses with our throws with, like, you know, combination of wiggle air dodge, DI down away, non-true combos, crouch cancel, all these variables. It's like, okay, yeah, I found that grab, but then, like, you have all these tools to your you have all these tools to your disposal where you could even get, like, maybe like an air dodge down smash reversal. Because I feel like the biggest thing in this matchup is because Peaches have gone so good with their defense that they've also gotten a lot better with their defense too. And I'd say that in a way it's also kind of underdeveloped for Marth, because Peaches have been stepping it up big time. You know, things like sub floats, punish optimizations, platform camping, pulling 3 Stitch faces in a row. So in a way, they step it up big time, and Marths are kind of like, you know? Like, we'll catch up sometime. Because at the same time, they've optimized this much, and we've kind of fought back a little bit by just being better players, ? So I feel like if we actually really optimize, like, our edge guards, our juggles, our advantage states, I feel like it could be here, but right now it's this. Because, like, at the same time, dude, like, Peach is just so uncommon in this metagame. You have Lon being a doctor, you have Polish traveling whenever they want. It's just, there's just not that much incentive practicing against Peach right now. But I imagine that if it became more and more of a thing that, like, you know, I urgently need to step up, I could see this being here. At the moment, I feel like it's right here. Yoshi, I know that Omset thinks that Yoshi beats Marth, and I know he's been beating me and Zane, but I just can't help but look at Yoshi's and his tools and just disagree. The biggest problem Yoshi has is that he can't wave dash out a shield. I know that's, like, something that is kind of obvious when you think about it a little, but I want you to know that, like, everybody takes wave dash out a shield so granted, and Yoshi can't do that. And non-tipper forward smash breaks at 50. So when Yoshi is grounded at 50% and is, like, fighting against my space tipper forward smash, what can Yoshi do when he's grounded? There's literally nothing Yoshi could do about a space tipper forward smash at 50. He can deal with it by being in the air preemptively, or he's already on platforms. When he's grounded, there's actually not too much he could do, really. Not to mention that Yoshi kind of struggles if the Marth just doesn't really approach. Like, that's kind of how Yoshi struggles in general. Is like, you have to kind of rely on the Marth just not knowing a lot of things. Like, not knowing Yoshi's threat range on platforms, not knowing double jump armor percents and, like, setups, not knowing how to waveland out of egg lay, not knowing how to deal with Marth off, like, not knowing how to deal with Yoshi camping the edge. That's what it feels like to me of how Yoshi could capitalize. But what I will say is that Yoshi has one of the best punish games against Marth. Like, Amsa really stepped it up, where I make one little mistake against him, and he just makes me eat 80 instantly with, like, up air, up air, up air, up air, nair, and, like, fair tech chase, and then, like, up egg edge guards. It's like one of those matchups where I feel like Marth wins if I do everything correctly. Like, I just don't make any blatant mistakes, and I play my positioning well, I know all my percents, I know everything. But if I break any of those rules at any point, I just take 80, or I take a guaranteed edge guard to the face, and then I die. So that's why it feels like Yoshi is here. But I'm pretty sure that when you actually know all of your positions as Marth in this matchup, it's probably more around here. I've been taking a lot of Drugvox lessons on Marth Yoshi, and it's hard for me to believe that's not here. Captain Falcon. Might be a little surprised to see that this isn't like 50-50 as like, you know, conventional wisdom. But I don't see it that way for a couple reasons. One, I think Marth can make it so then Falcon has a really hard time hitting you. I don't know if you've seen Don't Test Me versus S2J at Wave Dash, but I kind of observed it a little bit, and what I evaluated was that Zane actually won neutral 5 times more than S2J, but because Roy doesn't have a punish game, he can't really do much off of his neutral wins. But Roy has a very similar neutral game as Marth, in the sense that they shared like the same hurtbox contortions. Because here's a very big reason why Falcon has a hard time hitting Marth. It's because his Nair, only a second hit of Nair can hit Marth dashing back. And you could crouch cancel it. And Knee and Stomp are slow moves. And therefore, like, you know, you could beat it with like Nair or Shield or like side being it on reaction. That makes it so then it's honestly really hard for Falcon to land a clean hit on Marth. Not to mention like things like Raptor Boost is reactable. So is Falcon Kick. And then when Falcon like takes it to the skies, like, you know, they try to instant double jump bear, you could also react to that. Falcon's Runner Grab is a lot less range than it looks. And when you consider that, and the fact that, you know, things like RTC is pretty optimized for Marth, as well as like cashing in high reward reads, like, you know, up tilt, dare regrab, up air, all these reads that you can make as Marth to keep the tech chase going, and optimizing the edge guards too, and the Gimp game. Granted, Falcons have been stepping it up with their defense, but overall, I feel like the combination of being really, really hard to hit Marth, and also Marth having a pretty decent punish game on Falcon. Not the best, I'd say, but like pretty good with like tech chasing, edge guards, and even some Gimp games. I just can't help but feel like it has to be Marth favored, right? Because it'd be one thing if Marth only won neutral, but I think he wins both neutral and punish. That being said, it's kind of similar to Yoshi, but in a more conventional manner, that if Marth doesn't know his positions against Falcon, then like Falcon gets that fat reversal and he gets a down throw 80% 0 to death, or like edge guards him. Because he's like Yoshi. He's kind of like a grounded version of Yoshi, where Yoshi gets a lot of his percents and damage on Marth off of like, you know, platform stuff, and Falcon gets a lot of his reversals on grounded stuff. Like, if you don't know like the correct positions against Falcon and Yoshi, they're very similar, and it does feel like it could be losing, but when you know your positions, it's more like this. Plus, like, Marth's punish game on Falcon is a lot more straightforward, so if I had to choose which one's a better matchup, I guess I would say Falcon. It seems like at times that reversals are why Marth might lose to Yoshi and Falcon, but when you're getting reversaled, it's probably your fault. And that shouldn't dictate like matchup ratios. 6-4 is like, you know, I think it's very solidly Marth favored. Like, I think these are slight Marth favored in a sense that like I think if I play it right, I should win like a decent amount of the time. Whereas like here's like, if I'm really playing it right, I should win like almost every single time. Unless like they're outplaying me super hard. Samus, I think it's probably like the most contentious one. I could definitely see Samus be here rather than here. Because definitely Samus just fell off the meta game. Samus definitely fell off the meta game where Plup doesn't exist, Duck doesn't exist, Hugs doesn't exist. We got Swooper and Morse Code who barely play, they barely travel. So definitely the Samus representation is at an all-time low. I think since post-pandemic, I've only played Kata. And that's it. I think that's like the last like high-level Samus I played in bracket. And I guess there's Wevins, but like he barely travels. So definitely what makes me put Samus here is that there's just not that much Samus representation right now. But what could make me think that's here is that of all the characters in this list, Marth's worst punish game is Samus. There's a saying that Hugs has in Marth versus Samus is that, yeah, Marth wins, but Samus has 6 stocks and Marth has 4 stocks. If Samus uses every ounce of her defenses correctly, Marth kind of can't kill Samus. You know? I've never timed out anybody because, you know, I play defensive, but I don't try to degenerately camp. When I play friendlies against Samus that lives to 250% in Dreamland all the time, I've played Morse codes. I played Morse code in netplay friendlies during the pandemic. He is the only person I've ever timed out in friendlies. And that's... I wasn't even trying to camp him. It's just how slow this matchup can be, in a sense that this is literally probably Marth's worst character. Like, this is Marth's worst punish game against in the entire cast, probably. And that's... That could be that convinces me that it's here, honestly. It's just that there's no representation right now. That being said, Marth does have really good positioning on Samus. Like, she can't grab. She's not very mobile, which I think only hurts her the more we develop this metagame. Because, you know, a lot of Marths used to, like, dumbass, like, weak down tilt Marth Samus crouch canceling, but now we know a little bit better. We know to, like, mix up our fair timings, dare a little bit more, grab sometimes. So, like, the crouch cancel stuff isn't going to work nearly as often. So, like, I also just think Marth dominates the neutral game against Samus. It's just like, oh my god, like... And if Samus ever fights back with any kind of optimizations, like, just even winning neutral, like, 10% more, could just tip it here. Because, again, she just doesn't die. With the reason why the punish game on Samus is pretty capped is because she could wall jump during her tether recovery. And that makes it so then, like, edge guarding her is a risk. Where if I'm wrong with the edge guard, I die. And that's usually not worth it. Not to mention, she has, like, a lot of bomb, drift mix-ups, all of that stuff. And it's an annoying matchup. But for now, because of how much I think Marth dominates neutral, for now, I think it's 6-4. Link is definitely a matchup that I have lost in several times in tournament. But, you know, I've been getting better, one could say. And I just... As long as Marth is staying at the range where Link can't pull bombs and boomerangs safely, Marth can rush down Link, and Link can't do very much about it. And when you're at that range, you could dash dance around like Link's very committal moves, like his aerials, his dash attack, his grab. You can't really do very much safe things in neutral, aside from projectiles, which if you're playing rushdown, you're playing close, he can't do that safely. As well as, if he can nair, but if you've like full hop nairs, then you could react to that with like, you know, a shield stop fair instead to deal with that better. And the biggest thing that makes this a 6-4 matchup to me is that Marth can edgeguard Link, because Link can't wall jump off of his tether, and therefore, if you force Link to kind of just get up from his tether, he kind of just goes above the ledge, and if you hit him before he lands the ground and send him off stage again, not only do they not get their double jump back, but they also don't get their tether back, so they're forced to do their shitty up B, which, fun fact, not only can you counter or just like space around it, but if you crouch cancel the first couple hits of up B, you could counter the final hit of up B and still kill Link. That's how bad his up B recovery is. So Link doesn't have like that insane survivability factor. I do think his neutral game is overall a little bit better than Samus, but it's like, he dies a lot easier. Young Link is sort of similar to Link, except he's faster, but you could still like rush down Young Link. It's just that he's a little bit harder to track, and he's harder to edge guard because he can wall jump off of his tether recovery. But the big thing that still just makes this just as bad is that Marth has an overall better combo game on Young Link, where he has better up throw combos, he has overall better tech chasing. And he can still edge guard Young Link, you know. It's like Link, but in different ways. Doc, it looks like it could be a rough matchup until you realize how, you know, you could just jab the pills, you could wall out Doc reactively with like fairs. If they do like this weird like pill camping thing they do from the ledge, you could crouch cancel that pill and then like down tilt him before he lands, and you can instantly kill him off of that. So he can't really camp Marth really well, and when he tries to rush down Marth, Marth could just wall him off. Granted, like, he can't really edgeguard Doc that well except in like very specific stocks, but Marth can juggle Doc pretty well, and it's really hard for Doc to get things started. That being said, he does have a nasty reversal game against Marth, but if you just play your positions right, that shouldn't happen, and that's what makes me believe the 6-4. Mario's the same, except he doesn't have as bad as a punish game, but he does have a forward smash. Just need to respect that a little bit, instead of just always walling out. But other than that, he's just worse Doc. DK is like the, like, I guess I would say new age ice climbers, where, you know, you like screw up one little position and they just get one cargo up throw chain on you, and then they fair you, and then they punch you, and it's like, it's almost like you got wobbled, but I guess in a different way. But the thing is that the most debilitating part about DK Marth is that DK can't because like Puff has mobility with her bear, and that's why you can't always wall her out with fair, but DK doesn't have that much mobility, and therefore, like, at like a certain position, you could always rising fair at the same timing that you think DK might bear, and your fair will always win. Because your fair will just overlap his hurtbox hitbox with his bear, and you will always win that. And that's what gives Marth like a huge edge against DK in the neutral game. If they full up over you, then like you can nair right below them, since DK doesn't have a direct hitbox below him. You can up tilt. DK, you could tech chase DK by just covering 3 out of 4 options in various ways. Like, you could nair in place, you could up tilt in place, you could dare in place, you could up air in place, and you're probably gonna hit at least one of them because DK has a fat ass hurtbox. You could also run off counter against DK's up B, and he just dies. And if it doesn't die, you just do it again. So that's how you could get a guaranteed edge guard on DK. So he looks like a very annoying character to fight against. But in my opinion, it's like he's like a worse ice climbers. And as long as you know your positions, it's fine. These I'm not going to talk about very much. I guess I'll briefly talk about it. Luigi is... let's talk about Mewtwo. Mewtwo, if you just use your sword and you don't fall for like the battlefield gimmick, which you could still technically double jump out of it, and you just shamelessly spam your sword, like Pew Pew versus Zoma does, there's really not that much Mewtwo could do. Game & Watch can't... you could shield grab his fair, and you could outspace it by forward smashing. And if you react with his up B edge guard with either, like, you know, walk back forward smash, or you grab the ledge when he dips low enough, you always kill him. So you kind of dictate the pace against Game & Watch a little bit differently. You just do it with like shield and forward smash rather than try to dash dance and fair or whatever. You can't do much. Roy, if you short hop, this is what I found out playing against Zane's Roy in friendlies, is that if you short hop like kind of a little bit away from Roy and he tries to run up forward smash you, because that's probably his most reliable anti-air, it almost always weak hits. And that sucks for Roy, because his ground game might be good, but he doesn't really have anti-air game. So if you short hop backwards against Roy, there's honestly not that much he could do. Like, obviously don't short hop like right in front of his face, but if you like give him like, you know, like down tilt and place distance away from Roy, and you short hop backwards, Roy can't do anything about that. He has to let you do that. Not to mention like platform mix-ups, crouch cancel, that kind of just fucks Roy in general. Up throw, up tilt fucks Roy. Just edge guard him like you would against the Mario Brothers, not as Marth. Luigi is basically a test of how well do you know your juggle game and your edge guard game. If you could juggle and edge guard really well, Luigi will never hurt you. But if you fuck it up, then yeah, he's gonna reversal you a lot. But I'm just judging matchups based on if you're playing it right or not. And when you play it right, it's such a brutal matchup. It's like a better version of Sopo, but Sopo's not even that good. Sopo's like would be in this tier, maybe even here. If you don't get reversaled when punishing Luigi, you dominate this matchup. Plus, like, you know, playing cross-ups, while zoning him out, playing the airborne game a little bit more, that's how you can play against Luigi. Ganondorf, pretty similar against Luigi, except like you want to zone him out primarily with Nair. If he uses Bear or he's above you, then you want to use Fair. You have an insane edge guard game against him. It's way worse than Falcons. And if he down B's right in front of you, then you just run off up B. You can tech chase with forward smash most of the time. You could even true combo forward throw forward smash if they DI in. It's try not to get cheesed. Like, you don't want to tunnel by playing the ground game too much against Ganondorf. Like, especially when they try to, you know, side B, down B, you just want to play it in the air. When you get that down, you don't get reversal from Ganondorf. It's so bad for him. These 4 matchups, I'm just going to say if you space your sword and you don't overextend, you should always win. Don't play like an idiot. So, yeah, that's my theory for Marth's matchup charts. I think he only really loses to 1 matchup. Oh, one more thing. Against Zelda, if this was just Zelda, I also think it's here. Where, fun fact, if you crouch against Zelda, Zelda can never hit you with Rising Fair or Bear. That's a big tip that you should know whenever Sheik's transforms against Zelda against you as a latch this effort. And if you're afraid of getting kicked, just hold down. And you will never get kicked, essentially. And you'll be relatively safe against other moves. Not to mention that you could just dash dance out of her kicks, and she can't hit you. You know, you just don't overextend, and you'll never get kicked. So that's kind of like my rough thoughts on all these matchups, where I only really think Marth loses to 1 character. Roughly even of 1 character. And I think he beats everyone else, but you gotta know you have to know these matchups pretty well. Because if you don't know any of these matchups, Marth might as well lose to all of them. Like, this might as well be, you know, 6-4 matchup if you just don't know these matchups. Because that's how it feels like. Speaking as like Marth that has gone through it all, where like I just didn't know these matchups, this is how it feels like when you don't know. But when you do know, I do think Marth beats them. Not by a lot, mind you. I do think he's only soft favored. It's also possible for them to outplay you when they're playing really hard and they're in a good day. I do think they could beat you. It's kind of like when you get to these characters where you're not playing hot, but you still know what you're doing. I think you should just beat them no matter what. Like, you know, 80-90% of the time. And then I don't think you should ever lose to these characters if you know what you're doing. And, you know, whoever's playing better, I think, usually wins. And you have to be playing better than a Sheik player if they're the same skill level. But it's not by that much. You just need to make, like, one more read per stock, essentially. 1 to 2 more reads. At the end of the day, you're probably not losing to Sheik because of the matchup. You're probably losing because you're not that good at the game. And you just need to get better. And, you know, if you want to get better at the game, sign up for my lessons on Patreon or Medify. So, yeah, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys around.